Section 3. Accepting loneliness as part of the human condition. In a world that constantly pushes us to connect, to share, to be seen, loneliness can feel like an enemy. It's uncomfortable, unsettling, and at times, painfully isolating. But what if this feeling isn't something to escape from? What if it's not a sign of something broken within you, but a reflection of the human experience? According to Stoic wisdom, loneliness is not something to fear, nor is it a punishment for our inadequacies. Instead, it's an inevitable part of life, a part of the human condition that everyone will encounter at some point. Stoicism teaches us that loneliness is not just an absence of others, but an opportunity to understand ourselves more deeply. The Stoics believed in accepting life as it comes, including its more uncomfortable aspects. They practiced the philosophy of amor fati, which means love of fate. This means embracing everything that happens to us, not just the good, but the bad, the uncomfortable, and yes, even the lonely moments. Instead of fighting against loneliness, we can choose to accept it as part of our journey. By doing so, we reclaim our power over it. Loneliness, when approached from a Stoic perspective, becomes an opportunity for introspection and growth. It's in these moments of solitude that we are given the space to reflect on who we truly are, what we value, and what we want out of life. These questions cannot always be answered when we are surrounded by distractions, other people, or the noise of daily life. Solitude offers us the chance to hear our own thoughts without the interference of outside opinions. Through acceptance, we can learn to embrace loneliness not as an enemy, but as a teacher. When we view loneliness through the Stoic lens, we start to see it not as a void, but as a necessary part of life, a reminder that we are responsible for our own happiness and that we don't need the validation of others to feel complete. In fact, embracing moments of loneliness can lead to a profound sense of freedom. The freedom that comes from not relying on anyone else for our sense of worth. And in this freedom we find peace. It's important to remember that loneliness is not the same as being alone with purpose. The difference lies in how we perceive and react to the solitude. The Stoics believed in taking control of our inner world, regardless of external circumstances. So, when loneliness strikes, instead of succumbing to feelings of despair or inadequacy, we can choose to embrace it as an opportunity for personal growth, reflection, and acceptance. Section 4. Loneliness as a mirror. Understanding the self. One of the most profound gifts that loneliness offers is the opportunity to truly understand ourselves. When we find ourselves alone, with no one else to turn to, it forces us to look inward. This is where loneliness becomes a powerful mirror, reflecting not just who we are, but who we could be. We often avoid looking into this mirror because we fear what we might see. But Stoic philosophy teaches us that confronting ourselves honestly is not a weakness, but a path to strength and self-discovery. In solitude, we are stripped of the distractions and the masks we wear for others. We no longer have the ability to hide behind our social roles, our busy schedules, or our relationships. We are left with nothing but our own thoughts and feelings. This can be a daunting place to be, but it is also a place where deep self-awareness can flourish. The Stoics were keenly aware of the need for self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, constantly examined his own thoughts, emotions, and behavior, questioning his motives and seeking to align his actions with his highest values. The challenge, of course, is that when we are alone, we must face the things we might otherwise ignore. Loneliness often brings with it a wave of discomfort, the nagging thoughts about our past mistakes, our unfulfilled desires, or our unaddressed fears. But rather than running from these feelings, the Stoics encourage us to lean into them. We are called to observe these thoughts without judgment, to ask ourselves why we feel them, and to understand what they can teach us. In doing so, loneliness transforms from a source of pain into a tool for growth. This practice of self-inquiry can be uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly liberating. By confronting our deepest fears, insecurities, and desires, we gain clarity about what truly matters to us. We begin to understand why we seek the approval of others, why we chase after certain goals, or why we feel a sense of emptiness in our lives. And most importantly, we come to realize that all of these things are temporary. Our worth is not determined by external factors. It lies in how we respond to these internal truths. To fully embrace the mirror of loneliness, Stoicism encourages us to engage in practices like journaling, meditation, and daily reflection. These tools allow us to examine our thoughts and emotions in a structured way, helping us to understand ourselves more deeply. When we take the time to reflect, we can begin to see patterns in our behavior, to identify areas of growth, and to chart a course toward becoming the person we aspire to be. Ultimately, loneliness reveals our true selves, not the version of ourselves we show to the world, but the version we carry in our hearts. It offers us the chance to strip away the distractions and connect with who we really are. Through self-reflection, we gain the clarity and understanding needed to live a more authentic life, one that is not dependent on the validation of others, but built on the solid foundation of self-awareness and inner peace. When we learn to embrace loneliness as a mirror, we not only gain insight into who we are, but we also unlock the potential to become the best version of ourselves. Section 5. Strength in Solitude. Building Inner Peace. Loneliness is often viewed as an emptiness that needs to be filled. People rush to drown it out with distractions, social media, television, constant noise, anything to avoid sitting alone with their thoughts. But what if instead of resisting solitude, we leaned into it? What if we treated it not as something to escape, but as something to cultivate, like a garden that, when tended to, can bring us immense peace? This is exactly what Stoicism teaches us. The Stoics didn't just endure solitude, they saw it as a powerful tool for strengthening the mind and spirit. True inner peace isn't found in the approval of others, nor is it found in temporary pleasures. It's found in the ability to be completely alone and still feel whole. When you stop fearing solitude and start embracing it, you tap into a deep well of tranquility that exists beyond external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is the key to true peace, not needing the world to be a certain way in order to feel content, but learning to cultivate that contentment within yourself. Developing inner peace in solitude doesn't happen overnight, but it's a skill that can be strengthened with practice. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics used was journaling. Writing down your thoughts forces you to confront your emotions, your fears, your desires, and your struggles with absolute honesty. It's a form of mental decluttering, a way to process what's happening internally without being overwhelmed by it. Seneca himself wrote letters to a friend, not just as correspondence, but as a way of structuring his thoughts and sharpening his wisdom. You don't need an audience to gain clarity, you just need a pen and a moment of silence. Another powerful Stoic practice is voluntary discomfort. The idea is simple. By occasionally embracing discomfort, whether through fasting, taking cold showers, or spending time in complete silence, you train your mind to be at peace no matter what. This practice strengthens resilience, helping you understand that your happiness isn't dependent on external comforts. It teaches you that even when you have nothing but yourself, you are enough. Meditation is another tool that aligns perfectly with Stoic teachings. The goal isn't to empty the mind, but to observe it without attachment. When you sit in silence, watching your thoughts without reacting to them, you begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. You realize that emotions come and go, but you don't have to be controlled by them. You learn to detach from the anxious, restless thoughts that often make loneliness feel unbearable. Solitude, when used wisely, becomes a training ground for the mind. It's a space where you can learn to control your thoughts, regulate your emotions, and cultivate true inner strength. When you build peace within yourself, no external circumstance, whether loneliness, rejection, or loss, can take it away from you. Instead of seeing solitude as an absence, you begin to see it as a presence, an opportunity to connect with yourself in a way that makes you stronger, wiser, and more at peace with life.